thank you very much for coming to this presentation. For those of you that I don't know in the room, I'm Jo Payne and I'm the Director of Training Services at Central Regional TAFE at the Geraldton campus. My presentation is looking at what are the benefits that our organisation gained from entering into, in particular, the WA Training Awards and the Large Training Provider of the Year. What I would like to have a look at today is just the value of entering some of these award processes, the opportunity that this provides to reflect on the performance of your organisation and how that might bring some benefits to your organisation that perhaps people don't think about as one of the benefits or some of the benefits from being part of one of these sorts of processes. I want to particularly focus on the way that Durack went about this, or the former Durack went about this, in terms of who did the talking when we put forward our name for nominating for some awards, and also to provide some tips. I'll say right off the top that I'm not the expert, I'm the representative of the organisation, and the tips are there for anyone who would like to take them for what they're worth. Just a quick word about Central Regional TAFE. People in the TAFE sector in Western Australia, in the public provider sector, will know that formerly Durack Institute of Technology, which is where I'm from in Geraldton, CY O'Connor College of Institute of Technology, and the Goldfields Institute of Technology now comprise Central Regional TAFE. We have 10 campuses spread throughout the Midwest, the Gascoyne, the Northern Wheatbelt, and the Goldfields regions. We deliver around 300 qualifications from 32 training packages, and we go from Certificate 1 to Advanced Diploma and have some degree pathways through partnership arrangements as well. So we have a fairly broad range of programs and services across a very large geographic area. And when I talk about my organisation, obviously the organisation that won Large Training Provider of the Year in WA last year was Durack Institute of Technology, but I'm now talking more collectively about Central Regional TAFE. CY O'Connor Institute of Technology was also a finalist in Large Training Provider of the Year last year, and I've drawn on some of the lessons that CY learnt as well as part of that process. I'll start off by talking a little bit about why you might choose to put yourself through the effort and the pain of applying for an award. And I'm specifically talking about the Large Training Provider of the Year in WA, and then Durack Institute of Technology was also a finalist in the Australian Training Awards. But the same holds true for many of the other award processes that you can consider entering as an organisation. And Durack entered quite particularly the WA Training Awards as an organisation. We've also put lecturers forward for Trainer of the Year, our students forward in the various student categories, and we've also entered other awards across Australia. So in particular in relation to our sustainability initiatives and things like the Premier's Award, the Regional Achievement Award. So the same principles hold true for any of those sorts of awards, but I guess I'm drawing particularly on our experiences last year as Large Training Provider of the Year. I guess the key opportunities from entering the awards, most people might think that you enter the awards in order to possibly win and gain the kudos and the benefit that comes from winning, but there are in fact a lot of other benefits that will come to your organisation as a result of choosing to enter these awards. In particular, it's an opportunity when you put your name forward for an award, whether it's an organisational award or an individual award, it's a great opportunity to self-assess your organisation and to reflect on where you're at as an organisation. All of these awards, regardless of which ones they are, have criteria for entry that you need to address in some way, and they all require you to think about your performance and the way you go about your business, and to articulate against those criteria in a written application and often to a judging panel as well. They're also an opportunity to highlight your innovative projects and quality examples of the work that you do. And of course, if you're struggling to articulate any of these things, then that's a useful self-reflection process in itself. Another useful touch point that we found in this process was the ability to reflect on where our organisation was at in terms of meeting the Western Australian and the training and the Australian priorities for training, because the assessment criteria for these awards actually line up with those priorities. So again, if you're looking at these criteria as an organisation and you're struggling to actually articulate how you are going against these criteria and to come up with examples that you'd like to highlight, then that's in itself a useful process on assessing where your organisation is at. The application process encourages you to focus on what's innovative and excellent about your organisation, the things that really characterise you and set you apart from the others. We don't get very many opportunities as a training provider to do this unashamedly, and it's a very affirming process to actually go through this with your staff and to realise that yes, we actually do some pretty good work. And we've heard quite a bit this morning about how good the vet sector in Australia really is in the face of some quite numerous criticism from quite widespread across the media and across industry as well. So it's often a useful process to be able to step back and say, okay, well, are we doing good work? And when you start to look at these criteria and realise that in fact your organisation and the people in it are doing extremely good work. In this respect, it's worth noting as well how important it is, if you decide to enter into one of these processes, to support your showcase of excellence with data and measurable improvement and information that highlights that innovation and excellence are actually part of your strategic aims. They're not just fantastic things that you do, but they're actually part of your organisation's coherent and consistent strategic vision and way forward. One of the areas that I know that we fell down in previous application processes, and we've been entering these sorts of awards for well over 10 years in my experience, and we've won a number and we've reached finalist stage in some and we have dipped out in some. But one of the areas that I know that we've previously fallen down in is when the judging panel came to look at our organisation and to spend a day with us. They were really impressed by the range and the quality of projects that we were doing. They were impressed by the enthusiasm of our staff. They were interested in our students. But what they didn't see was that lackey band, I suppose, that goes around all of that and holds it all together. They didn't see that consistent, coherent vision where it was evident that everybody was actually moving in the same direction with all of the projects and the innovation that they were carrying out. So this is one of the important pieces of feedback that we've actually been able to gain from these processes, which we've taken and used as a catalyst for continuous improvement and been able to put that in place. The process itself as well is a great way to strengthen the relationship with your stakeholders, with your students, with employers and with other partners, and involving those stakeholders as part of your application process and part of the judging process if you actually achieve becoming a finalist. It's a good way to build trust and confidence with your stakeholders. And in the theme of showcasing excellence, it's also a great way to recognise the good work that your stakeholders do, whether it's the performance of your students or the excellent work that your industry partners do. It's a great way to recognise excellence with your stakeholders as well. It's also one of those rare opportunities that staff secretly long for, where they get the chance to show off in a very positive kind of way. And our experience is that staff respond to this incredibly positively. They take the opportunity. There's always a little bit of trepidation when you ask staff to front up to a judging panel about what they might say, but in fact they respond in a very positive way. And those staff that have been involved in our awards processes have really benefited from being able to have that forum to express their own views about innovation and the creative things that they're doing. Of course, if you do win, or if you're recognised by being selected as a finalist, you also get some pretty good marketing material that comes out of that. So with the WA Training Awards and the Australian Training Awards, you get to use the logo on all of your correspondence in your marketing and promotional materials. You can highlight your organisation's recognition as being amongst the best in the state to your industry and community partners, and you can use this to build confidence in the product that you're offering. In a regional setting such as ours, this has been particularly important. It's important to the community to be able to say, look, you don't need to go to a metropolitan college to get first class education and training. You don't need to source a trainer from the city. You can access training from a provider that's been recognised at the state and national level in the community in which you live. Or being able to say that one of our students was Vocational Student of the Year, or our lecturer was Trainer of the Year. These contribute to regional capacity building in a way that you might not have thought about when you decided to enter the awards process itself. A few words about the decision to apply. Really simple message here. Make a collective decision to apply, and the best application will be a collaborative one that involves a number of your staff. Do some brainstorming, gather some ideas from staff about how to address the awards criteria, get them to identify the outstanding projects and innovative activities that they want to see highlighted. And again, if they can't do that, probably don't enter. Assess where your organisation is at in terms of, is there really something that's going to be the defining characteristic between you and other providers? Who does the talking? Again, this is a very simple message, but probably the most important one that we've learned in all of those years of experience in applying for these different sorts of awards. The most successful efforts that we've made and the most positive experiences that we've had as an organisation, not just around the award itself, but as an organisational developmental opportunity, have been those ones where we've let our staff, our students, our industry and our community partners do the vast majority of the talking. And it goes back to that point I made before about building trust and confidence with your stakeholders. Most organisations will be like mine. If you happen to be a finalist, the CEO will want to do a presentation to the judging panel. They'll want to do it in the boardroom. The executive will want to bring forth a whole lot of data that's about how financially viable we are, what our student satisfaction rate is, how many of our graduates get employment, what our staff retention numbers are, all of those sorts of things. And that's all good stuff, and you need to bring all of that forward as well. It's all part of what characterises your organisation. But as a gauge, if you've got 1 hour with the judging panel, spend 2 minutes doing that and spend 58 minutes letting the judges talk to your staff, your students and your industry partners, because they will tell the story about the difference your organisation makes so much better than a whole lot of presentation from your management group will. The stories that our partners and our students and our stakeholders have to tell are really compelling. I just want to highlight a couple of the initiatives and projects that we actually put forward as part of our application process last year, and some of the people that the judging panel talked to when they actually came and did their site visit. The top left hand with the purple stuff on the spindle is our gardener. Across about a period of about 2 years, we replaced all of our subsurface reticulation in our gardens at our main campus in Geraldton. It was about 7 hectares of grounds. We replaced all of the above ground reticulation with subsurface reticulation called netafim. And the gardener, Ernie, was a critical part of that. He was our advisor in terms of that project, and he and his team worked with our facilities staff to complete that project over a course of about 2 years. Alongside of that, we built a water reclamation system that uses runoff from the car parks and the rooftops and so on as a grey water system to water all of our quite extensive gardens. And over that period of time, we made an 80% saving in our water bill in terms of taking water from the scheme. We won a couple of national awards, including the National Waterwise Award about 2 years ago, and our efforts in terms of sustainability have been recognised in WA and at the national level. This is one of the projects that we highlighted to the judging panel as part of an organisational approach to innovation and creativity. We also had the judging panel speak with a number of our students. It's Joseph there, one of our international students, who is part of the team at the Batavia Coast Maritime Institute, and some students there from our new nursing health sciences building, which was built with the Royalties for Regions funding. These students and these staff were all part of the process of introducing the judging panel to the nature and the culture of our organisation. They'll tell the story of your organisation far better than if you sit in the boardroom with your management team. I'm going to talk about two of the partnership projects that we had in particular that we highlighted with the judging panel, because I think they characterise the importance of those partnership projects and the ability that they have to showcase the way that your organisation works. The first of these is a partnership with the Northern Agricultural Catchments Council, which is a natural resource management group. Durack has a partnership with the Northern Agricultural Catchments Council to deliver two significant natural resource management projects in the Midwest. One of these involves the restoration of vegetation of dunes at the iconic Abrolhos Islands off the coast of Geraldton, and the other one is the eradication of the noxious fish species tilapia. Delia will laugh about this one, from the local Chapman River. Both of these provide the conservation and land management students, so students from Certificate 3 to Diploma in Conservation and Land Management students, with amazing opportunities to work in the field with experts and with partner organisations that include the NAC itself, the City of Greater Geraldton, with the Department of Fisheries and the Department of Parks and Wildlife. And while the students are engaged in a rich learning experience, this also introduces them to an enormous range of experts in the field in which they hope to work, as well as to potential employers. Through this partnership, the NAC also offers our students around $25,000 worth of scholarships a year in order to facilitate increased access for students to those programs. One of the other projects that we engaged in last year, which is really interesting and which we also highlighted to the panel, particularly because this one represents a partnership between a number of community organisations and our students and our lecturers at the Geraldton campus, but also because this provided one of our partner organisations with their own opportunity to advance to a national awards process as well. Operation Bandama, which in the local Indigenous language means in good hands or safe hands, was a project which was organised by the City of Greater Geraldton, so the local government authority within which we work. In June 2015, students from Durack Institute of Technology were able to integrate their learning from Certificate 4 in veterinary nursing with a multi-agency response in an emergency scenario. As you can imagine, managing animals in a disaster can be a complex issue for emergency responders and communities, and the City of Greater Geraldton acknowledged this in a priority and developed a local animal emergency welfare guideline as part of their wider emergency response plan. Agencies who work closely with animals and in the community came together to test the guidelines, and in the exercise, the outcomes from that exercise were captured on film and formed part of the city's presentation to a national conference on emergency responses in Townsville. And the photographs there are students from our Certificate 4 in Veterinary Nursing program, and also our lecturer and thankfully a volunteer patient who was not particularly badly wounded, but it's because he was a volunteer and he was not terribly hurt, fortunately. So as I said, it's important to let students, industry and your community partners tell their own story, because their stories resonate. Our students come from a diversity of backgrounds. They have their own interesting stories about their journey that brought them to training and to our organisation, as they will have to your organisations. And they have amazing stories to tell about how their experience in training brought about a difference or a change in their lives. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Well, just reflecting on our experience, because we're both the finalists, I think what we didn't do, or probably was very difficult to do, was the students to tell their stories, because there were no students on campus. And it would be, I could have done it differently. Now that you told me it was the students and the staff, some of the staff talked to the panel, but we didn't have the students.
Yes, I think that was probably, one of the most rewarding experiences that we had was being able to set up a number of, and we did it as sort of like a focus group setting with students meeting the judging panel, and we had students drawn, obviously, we invited students to be part of that group, and we had students drawn from all different parts of the organisation, representing all of the different types of cohorts, all the different delivery methodologies that we have, students from different industry areas and so on. So as a representative group as we could manage. Most definitely, it's the most powerful story that I think a training provider organisation can tell.
Was Exmouth and Carnarvon involved in this process and students, or was it really just Geraldton-centric, if you like?
Good question. Tricky question. They were not involved in the actual, they weren't involved this time, I can say that. They have been involved in the past. So in previous processes that we've been involved in, we've set up teleconferences for judges to talk to students at other campuses. We certainly had students from all the campuses in the Geraldton region, but for this particular process, there were not students from Carnarvon, although we did have staff from Carnarvon. So yes, it's a good point. Our organisation comprises a number of campuses, and it's important to give judges a feel about what that looks like in the way that you work across the different communities. So what are the rewards? And I guess there are two sort of ways to focus on this. The rewards lie in what you gain as an organisation externally in the community and with industry, and also there are rewards that you gain within your organisation. So externally, being part of this process is an opportunity to enhance your organisation's profile in the community. Not just if you win. Obviously, if you win, you do get that marketing collateral, and it's useful, and it's great to be able to go around for a year saying we're the large training provider of the year, and you can put it on your letterhead and all of those sorts of things. But as I said, having that exposure to industry as part of the application process and asking industry to be part of that so it feels to industry like they're part of this bigger process has been particularly useful and particularly rewarding. So highlighting the quality of the training experience, building that client confidence, and highlighting the positive influence that training can have by demonstrating to industry and community partners that good things happen when people come to TAFE, basically. While it's a selling point, the most important collateral that you gain out of this is to be able to enhance that concept that you're selling the richness of the experience. You're not selling the organisation, you're not promoting your organisation, you're selling the quality of the service that your organisation is providing. So the message really is, look, here's an industry or an employer like you, or here's a student like you, and look at the outcome that's been achieved by working with this training provider organisation. Internally, as you'll have gathered, I think that this is where the real value is. It's within your organisation. As we all know, it's a tough environment in which people work at the moment, and there aren't very many public opportunities to recognise and thank the staff for the jobs that they do. When an individual wins an award, it's pretty obvious that that person is being recognised for the quality of work that they're doing. Obviously, they're supported by the organisation as a whole, but it's pretty clear that this is an endorsement of an individual's work. When an organisation wins an award, a particular effort needs to be made to make sure that sense of endorsement of being part of the win is shared across the organisation. It's just as important to sell it within your organisation as it is to sell it outside. And in many respects, the gains are greater. The developmental gains that you get from being able to sell this and celebrate it within your organisation as an endorsement of the quality of work that everybody does is really invaluable. Staff can take a moment to reflect themselves on the job that they do and the difference that this makes for their students and their community. When we were asked, as part of the feedback process for the WA Awards, what was the biggest advantage or the biggest benefit from winning the Large Training Provider of the Year, we said it was being able to demonstrate to our clients, industry and community partners that they have access to the state's best quality training in the region in which they live and work, and the sense of pride that this instills in staff. As I said, you get to use these as well, which is pretty cool. Being able to enter the Australian Training Awards is a particular bonus, and the Department of Training and Workforce Development provided us with a great deal of support, as they do all Western Australian entrants to the Australian Training Awards. But being able to participate in those awards and be one of 3 finalists for Large Training Provider of the Year gave us exposure to national good practice. We were able to talk to and interact with and share experiences with the very best providers from all of the different categories across Australia, as well as with the individual student nominees and the staff as well. And this was another very affirming process for our organisation, to be able to say to people, look, one of the best in the country, and here is evidence of our good practice being demonstrated up there with evidence of everyone else's good practice. So this is also, you know, another benefit, an unexpected benefit of participating in these awards. So, just some tips if you are thinking about entering. And as I said at the beginning, not offering these as an expert by any means, but just something to consider if you would like to think about entering any of the awards. Highlight the journey and how far you've come. So highlight the improvements that your organisation have made. The judges are always looking for the improvements an organisation has made, and to be able to demonstrate evidence of that continuous improvement. How you gather feedback from your stakeholders, how you use that to inform development of your business, how you improve the quality of programs and services that you offer in response to that feedback. Focus on what differentiates you from the other quality providers. If you're entering, for example, the large training provider of the year and you're a finalist, you can bet that every other finalist is going to be a high quality training provider. They're going to have excellent relationships with industry, they're going to have innovative projects, they're going to have fantastic staff, they're going to have a well-formed, coherent professional development program for their staff, they're going to have really good students. You need to focus on the thing that characterises your organisation and makes you special and different in a high quality field of providers. Involve as many of your staff as you can and let them shine. Give them the opportunity to say the things that are good about your organisation, and give them the opportunity to highlight those themselves. Seek support of your partners, as I mentioned, and above all, let your staff, your students and your partners tell the story. And that, you'll be happy to know, is it. Any other questions or any other comments, or would anyone like to share any experiences of their own from any of these processes?
Jo, was there a focus at all on vet in schools and, how you dealt with, firstly the information to potential students and parents? I mean, we just heard previously from the panel of 4 how important that is, and also the mental health of students, and particularly school students. So was that sort of a focus at all of the awards?
It wasn't a particular focus in this most recent process. We do have a big suite of Vet for Schools programs, and we consider the schools to be amongst our major stakeholders, where we have things like the duty of care. We would address the duty of care aspect of that. So if we've got under 18-year-olds meeting with the judges, then we would do the usual thing, which is get parental permission for that to happen. We didn't have a particular focus on Vet for Schools, but we presented Vet for Schools as part of the suite of programs that we do. In the past, we have actually entered Vet for Schools programs, in particular our partnership with the Clontarf Football Academy for young Indigenous males as one of the programs, and that's actually been one of the most successful programs that we've had over a period of time. So did I answer your question or not? Okay.
Jo, I was just wondering how you celebrated the win with your staff. And sort of further to that, there was probably only some select staff involved.
Yes.
How the staff who weren't directly involved in the process received the win, and you included them in the win, I suppose.
Yep, that's a really good point, actually. There are only a number of people that are involved, and again, staff are invited to be part of that process, either as a result of them saying, look, I've got this really great thing that I think the judges should hear about, or asking people who are involved in particular programs or projects to be part of that process. We shared it in a number of ways, so the usual sorts of communication ways. We went to particular lengths in terms of, the managing director addressing all of the staff, encouraging all of the staff to view this as a win for everybody. Previously, we have had things like, a staff celebration function. We have annual awards function for our staff anyway, and we use that as an opportunity to recognise the efforts of staff, as well as to remind people that, the reason why we are able to do some of these things is because, we have been a large training provider of the year. So it's a tricky and difficult, it's tricky to make sure that you sort of put it out there in a way that everybody does feel like they have been included in it. It's not just about those staff that are involved, or it's not just about the lecturing staff. It's actually about all of the people who contribute in their own way. And, as you would know, in a large organisation that's geographically dispersed, that can be difficult. So really, it's also going to, the managers and saying, look, you need to put this message out. It needs to be part of your team meeting. When you talk about things, you need that opportunity to set a little bit of time aside to celebrate as well.
How about engaging all the staff before you started? How that process took place?
We have a sort of a long tradition of applying for these sorts of awards. We've actually won Large Training Provider of the Year in our various iterations as different named entities 4 times, and then we've won a number of other awards as well. So there's actually quite a culture in our organisation of saying, yes, we will apply for these sorts of things. I'd like to say that we had this massive, big engagement strategy where we had everybody involved, but that wouldn't be right. We have a group of people. We have, for example, we have a leadership development network, which comprises around about 25 of the sort of senior staff from both teaching and non-teaching areas. So we put out something to them saying, we're going to enter these awards, give us some information, give us some advice about the things you'd like to see highlighted, give us some examples. If you've got somebody that you'd like to put forward, let us know. We, as I mentioned, we have annual staff awards, and through that annual staff awards process, we put forward our lecturer of the year to trainer of the year to the WA Trainer of the Year award. We encourage all of our student award winners, our major student award winners. We assist them to apply for the awards if they are interested in applying. So any students who would like to apply for the WA Training Awards, we provide them with assistance, we provide them with mentoring if they happen to make it to the finalist stage as well. So we try a number of ways to engage people. I guess that, there's always more that we can do. And there tends to be one of those processes where, you're writing it at 5 to 5 on the day that it's due to be submitted, because it's just one of the things that you fit in with everything else that you're doing. But we try to be as inclusive and make that as widespread as we can. Could we do more? Yes, we could. If we could do more, for sure. You
probably don't want to think about this right now, but moving forward, 8 campuses, Exmouth to Kalgoorlie's 17 hours driving.
Yes.
What are the challenges applying next year or this year?
Well, yes, they're challenging. They're challenging, and they're going to be particularly challenging for the next couple of years, I think, for all of the TAFE colleges in WA, because all of the TAFE colleges are in the situation of building new organisational cultures. So all of the TAFE colleges will comprise, larger organisations where previously existing organisations have been merged together. And there's a process there of building those organisations and building the organisational culture behind that. So part of the challenge of that for the regional colleges is distance, and part of the challenge is bringing diverse organisational cultures together into one that's cohesive. And I don't have any brilliant strategies for that at this moment.
You mentioned about the culture of putting in your application, and just leading into now that we are 3 merged colleges now. Perhaps there is an avenue there to capture best practice somewhere in our system, so that then when there is a application like this, we don't run around, and I think that is something that we need to be very mindful of, because my personal experience when we put this in, we were so surprised on how much innovations we had. Had we had that recording of these are our best practice each year, we wouldn't be cramming of writing the application.
Very true, and I think that's true of many things that we do. As larger organisations, we don't capture on an ongoing basis all of those, all of those instances of good practice, of innovation, of people coming up with creative new ideas. And we're always on the lookout for different ways of doing that, different systems for doing that. And given the new structures in our colleges from here going forward, that will be even more challenging, but probably in a way even more important, which I think is what you've alluding to. Okay, well, thank you all very much for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for engaging.
Authorised by the Government of Western Australia, Perth.